Fair to say that law enforcement is treating this as a workplace violence.
An active shooter situation.
Several civilians inside this facility.
Of an active shooter.
That have been injured.
Who will help the victims? The shooting component of it is kind of erupted just recently, as we know, where the attacks became less terroristic type or terror type attacks, such as the Boston bombing or 9/11, into more of a domestic terror attack, a deadly weapon attack, workplace violence, where these things are erupting, where I feel that the social norm of society has changed recently. And I don't know if the world has changed because of the U.S. or if the U.S. has changed because of the world. Those things are debated. Certainly no country is immune to this, and that we've seen these horrible, dreadful attacks and violent events occur everywhere. McGowan, we're a program administrator, and as opposed to a agent or broker or insurance company, McGowan, we fill a little niche. I like to say it's a insurance incubator. And so what we do is we work with various risks, one being active shooter workplace violence, for example. This coverage didn't exist. There was a need. There were markets, insurance carrier risk bearers that were interested in providing the coverages. There were certainly clients that wanted the coverage, but someone had to underwrite it, and someone had to manage the process of accepting applications, marketing, underwriting each and every risk, issuing policies, collecting premiums, ultimately overseeing claims. And so that's what we do. That's what McGowan does. Active shooter workplace violence. We started a few years ago. It is one of 15 portfolio of risk products that we offer to the public. We're based in Cleveland, Ohio. We have representatives in just about every state, and we insure risks in just about every state of the country, and we're looking actually to move up into Canada. We work through retail and wholesale brokers, and we pride ourselves on top-notch service and claims handling and just being that true partner with our insurance carriers. To simplify it, there was a gap in coverage that the GL policy, general liability, commercial general liability policy, did not cover. And this was a response coverage to these tragic events. Active shooter, deadly weapon attack, mass shootings, they go by a number of different names. We hear them all too often in the news. That's the main truth. The general liability policy requires a lawsuit. So the injured party, whether it be a patron, student, family of a church or school or municipality or a restaurant chain, if a tragic accident occurs, they need to file a lawsuit. And lawsuits are expensive. They're sensational. They cost a lot of money. So we created a product to respond day one, dollar one, to help the victims recover and the communities recover. And so the first part of our active shooter workplace violence programs is that day one coverage. So we will reach out to the victims, immediately will provide counseling services, medical expenses, funeral coverages. If there's deaths, we'll provide death benefits to the beneficiaries. And this helps an organization, a hotel, a cinema, university, school, church, etc., respond in an act of kindness and an act of humanity. That's one of the big differences that we're seeing just in recent months of the development of this product. The other part of the product, or the second part I might say, is the increased expenses that a organization will incur in the event of these tragic accidents. For one, there could be a massive business income loss. The Aurora Cinema shooting, the cinema was closed for 6 months without revenues. Virginia Tech spent millions of dollars refurbishing the hall and on public relations and crisis management to help make the public feel safe to come back to the university. We're seeing this time and time again where organizations spend a lot of money. City of Fort Lauderdale Airport spent over $750,000 reuniting the luggage with the passengers. It's an odd expense, but that's a lot of money. So these expenses are reimbursed for the organization to help, keep them being an organization. One example of this not happening would be the Pulse nightclub shooting, where Pulse nightclub doesn't exist anymore. Literally, the business was ended. A wonderful business serving the community was ended because of a mass shooting. So these risks are real, and so we like to feel we help organizations offset these exposures. The third part is the third-party liability, where many times these tragic events have large lawsuits, expensive lawsuits. And at that point, no organization is asking what is enough insurance. They're asking how much insurance do we have, and do we have enough? So while our primary coverage to any general liability policy, meaning we're first dollar, we insulate the general liability policy and excess coverages of these large lawsuits. So those three basic parts make up our active shooter workplace violence program.